music by Into Oblivion. Check them out on linktree.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Whosoever Group podcast. This is your host, The Happy Crow, and with me today,
Storm Whistler.
How you guys doing? So today, it's our Christmas episode. So first, let's get over with a couple announcements. Number one, we are not going to be having any more releases for the next 2 weeks. We have Christmas, and then we have some other stuff going on. After that, though, we will be starting up, and it will be starting up on a video one. So get excited, get ready for that. So those are our announcements, and let's get on with the show. So, Christmas. You got the commercialized, you got the traditional, you got the dissenting opinions that Christmas is a fake holiday, man. So let's talk about everything. Let's talk about it all. Well, first let's talk about our Christmas memories. So, Mr. Storm, what's your memories for Christmas? What's your thoughts, and what are some things that you like or dislike, whatever?
Christmas season is my favorite season. Me and my wife, we start listening to Christmas music on November 1st.
November 1st? Oh, man.
November 1st. Not after Thanksgiving.
We start on Thanksgiving.
No. November 1st. I'll give Thanksgiving a day. That's it. That's it. We also celebrate Christmas in July. We'll legit put a little tiny tree up. We'll watch our Christmas movie. One year we got eggnog ice cream, and we had some eggnog ice cream.
Oh, I gotta call you in July just to make fun of you for that next time.
We exchanged gifts, small little thing, nothing huge, nothing, just like a little stocking stuffer, you know.
Here's some swimming trunks. There you go.
Sure, why not? Right. So, yeah. Me and my wife love Christmas. Absolutely love it. And we embrace it fully, heartily.
What's some of your best memories?
That's a great question. Really just spending time with family is probably the best memories that I have. It's just, you always have that dedicated time to spend with your family. Yes, you may drive to 4 different places on Christmas Day, but you're still spending with your loved ones, and you just get time together like you normally don't throughout the year. So
yeah.
What about you?
So I love everything about Christmas. My wife would like to be the same as you with starting music on November 1st, but I am hardline. I say no. We start on Thanksgiving Day. That's when the Christmas music starts.
On Thanksgiving Day?
On Thanksgiving Day.
You don't even give Thanksgiving a day.
No. Thanksgiving Day is the be. Tell me what Thanksgiving music you know of.
Exactly. That's why can't we start? Christmas, yeah. So then why can't we start November 1st?
Because that's too early. It's too early.
No, you don't have a good reason.
Tradition, darn it. No, I think she wore me down this year though, because she goes, "It's 2020. This year has sucked. So you know what? I'm starting the Christmas early."
A lot of people did that.
At first, I fought her on it, and then I just slowly capitulated. So I really started around the 15th of November, somewhere around there.
Progress. We're making progress.
So then we always start setting up the tree on Thanksgiving night after we're back home, whether we did Thanksgiving at our house or family's house. Normally it's at family's. We start setting up the tree that night. Then we don't put all the decorations. We put a few on and just have it set up. And then the next day we hit it and get everything done. Depending if we go shopping or not, which this year, no shopping, because that's just insanity. No, not dealing with all those crowds and masks and all that and somebody yelling at somebody else. Nope, I'm good. Not the year.
We were at a craft store just trying to pick up some supplies to create gifts. And the line went all the way back to the back of their store and started making turns.
Oh, jeez.
And that was just for the checkout line. And I'm like...
There's probably one cashier, too.
Probably one or two. They didn't actually have what I needed, so we basically just got out. My wife literally jumped in line as we were trying to find the things. Because we realized how long it was, and she didn't need anything. It was just me who needed the supplies.
She was just a placeholder for you?
Yeah, she was just a placeholder in the line, and I basically called her and I was like, yeah, no, we got to get out of here. That's how crazy it was.
Jeez, yeah, no.
And then they didn't have it, like I said, they didn't have what we needed, so it was no waste of spending our time trying to buy one or two things.
I think one of some of my favorite Christmas memories are along the lines with yours is spending time with the family. Like we always used to go to when I was younger. We always went to my one aunt's house, and it was always a good time. We just played games, did stuff. I remember just because I didn't have any real video gaming systems when I was younger, so I remember going over there. I was like, I get to play video games with them. We were playing Mario Kart and whatnot, which is awesome. So I got to do that and just that kind of stuff, and just having fun. I do remember I have a couple memories of just like we did it like 2 or 3 times where we cut down our own trees. So that was always good, and I always love the smell of it. I love the smell of pine trees, always.
Yeah, in my family we have a day called Christmas Tree Day, where we go cut down the tree. Normally we've already tagged that tree a few weeks beforehand, cut it down, bring it home, decorate the entire tree, lights, ornaments, finish decorating the house because we probably have already started decorating some parts of the house because we've got a lot of decorations and we pretty much decorate every single room. So yeah, but we basically just finish off the rest of the decorations and have some cookies and watch a Christmas movie and call it a day.
So decoration day, not so much tree day, but decoration day.
No, it's all about the tree.
Oh, okay.
It's all about the Christmas tree. And the next morning you come down and it smells like that beautiful pine.
Yep. You get the nice Griswold tree.
I would not say it's a Griswold tree.
Oh, you gotta get a nice.
But I did probably cut about 2 feet off of it before I got it back.
All right, so kind of a Griswold tree.
Kind of.
I actually didn't watch that movie until like I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and that is now one of my favorite Christmas movies.
That is a movie that I didn't really see until when I was with my wife. She loved that. And
yeah, my wife got me to watch it too.
And also the Christmas Story, not something that my family watched. And granted, I love Home Alone 2. We don't speak about the third one. That one doesn't exist.
Oh, you know what? Okay, you ready to hate me?
Go for it.
I watched the third one before I ever saw any of the other ones.
I'm sorry.
And I liked the third one more.
No.
For me, that one has the nostalgia because that was where I started.
You started up wrong. You gone messed up.
I had the funny part is I had the same discussion with somebody at my work because I saw Terminator 2 first before I saw anything else, and so I showed my kid in the order of Terminator 2 first, and they told me that I committed a heresy by showing him out of order. I said, well, Terminator 2 is the best one, so of course you show him that one. But hey, to each his own. So, this is some of our memories for Christmas. Now, we have many traditions throughout the world for Christmas holidays. Now, as Christians, a lot of times we should be focusing it on Christ himself, because that's what we're celebrating. Now, here's an argument that we're going to present to you that a lot of people I have heard say that, well, it's not a Christian holiday, and even like other sects Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't celebrate any holidays because of the older ties that they had, because they had pagan ties to them that were not started in God himself. They were just started by somebody believing, hey, the sun is coming up in the west, that must be God. No, that's not how that works. But so let's talk about a little bit of what those other things are, kind of what the actual original origins of Christmas were, and then at the end, I want to hear from feedback from the audience. What's your thoughts on? Okay, so now you know origins. Now you know different thoughts on it. What's your thoughts coming back? Do we make you think more? Make you think less? Stir your imagination? Let's find out. So one of the first ones we'll get to is Saturnalia. This one is hilarious. Saturnalia was a lawless, drunken time in Rome where anything was okay. It was essentially the kind of like the purge where they suspended all laws for a little bit. Except they didn't have the giant horn, to warn you about it. That's insane. So one of the Christmas traditions is, okay, let's get drunk and possibly kill somebody.
I wouldn't say a Christmas tradition. I would just say it was something that was celebrated during that time.
Okay, okay,
Um,
holiday tradition. We won't mince.
yeah,
We
we'll
won't
say
mince the
holiday
words.
tradition. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because while yes, there are some ties into it, I wouldn't necessarily. This is the originating.
Oh no! This is just one of many.
Correct. I
Yes.
understand. Fully understand. Just want to make sure that we get our
Point across
yeah,
properly. I got you.
correct. But yeah, just back in Roman times, you could do whatever you want during this
Holiday period.
holiday period, which
It's
is
the
normally
holidays.
around
You know
in the
what?
December time. So
Remember that neighbor who said they didn't like your pie? Their house looks awfully flammable. Yeah, so that was a tradition. That's crazy to me. So it took place between December 17th and 23rd to honor the Roman god Saturn. Romans also thought that the solstice took place on December 25th. So we have, and that was kind of tied into like a birthday of the sun. So there's a lot of different traditions that love just the sun in general. Everything's based around the sun and lunar cycles. That's what I wanted to go for. You have all those solar and lunar cycles and all these traditions. And one of the first ones, not the first, but one of them was the time just to get drunk and act a fool. And it started, and they kind of ended it on December 25th, which is, like I said, I find that absolutely hilarious. One of the original things is let's get drunk and stupid. No, now we kind of changed that to Thanksgiving because that's when the most DUIs happen in the U.S. is normally Thanksgiving. So we just kind of moved it back for America.
yeah, well, yeah, it's not necessarily as good to be drunk on Christmas compared to Thanksgiving.
I really don't think it was good no matter which holiday. But
Oh, for sure.
I guess maybe the only argument you could have would be, well, you got more food in your stomach to absorb it, which that's not.
And then you go to sleep. It's the food that makes you go to sleep, so it's not like you're.
Oh, that's even worse. Oh, you're drunk and tired. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, that's a bad idea. Don't do this. Don't do this. This is a terrible idea. So we have another one here. We got Yule. So, Yuletide cheer. Well, here's the Yule and Yuletide. The scholars connected to the Germanic and Scandinavian celebrations of the wild hunt. The god Odin and the pagan Anglo-Saxon. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this name unless you got it.
No, I forgot to look it up.
Okay, so never mind. I'm not even going to try that. It starts with an M and has a bunch of letters. So figure it out.
Well,
Yuletide was traditionally celebrated during the period of mid-November to mid-January. So you had a lot. So you had first you got drunken stupidity, and then you got Odin. That's awesome. You got Thor going here. So if you want to put Thor on your Christmas tree, technically it's historically correct.
True. And this is also where you kind of get some of the images from Santa. Was from Odin.
Yes, the nice beard and all that.
Correct.
Except Odin was much more scary.
For sure. And we'll get later in later in the podcast we'll definitely talk about where Santa got some of his origins from.
Yes.
But
that's,
bring in the
that's
Yuletide.
So now we're going to move. Well, actually, the next topic is Santa. So there you go. So we'll throw this part out in the beginning. The lovely, jolly red fellow in the red suit that we all know and love, you can thank Coca-Cola because they did a fantastic job of marketing that image.
True, while Coca-Cola definitely got you the imagery of what we
Yes.
know now as Santa, but really Christmas as a whole tradition really didn't start until the 1800s. A lot of the traditions that you see today, should I say, really didn't start until the 1800s.
And Coca-Cola said, you know what? We're going to brand this and we're going to sell the crap out of everything we can with a Santa Claus picture on it. And they did a great job at it. So you have St. Nicholas, the Dutch mispronunciation, Sinister Claus, St. Nick, okay, Kris Kringle, all those different versions. So he was a bishop in the Church of Asia Minor, and there's now not all this we can 100% confirm with everything because tradition is tradition, not necessarily the greatest historical accounts. But he did give gifts to people and helped, and it was a generally helpful person. So that kind of goes in with the tradition that kind of started with like, oh hey, we got a nice jolly old person giving kids gifts under a tree. Now necessarily they weren't with the tree. There was one story where he actually dropped gold coins down somebody's chimney flue just to help them out. So that's kind of cool. So that's also one place where you have the
Yeah. He gave it to the family who had 3 daughters for basically the dowry to have them be married.
Save them from poverty and all that.
Poverty or being sold into slavery.
Yeah, that's terrible. So overall, he didn't do too bad. We have no clue about him, who he really was, but those are nice things. But did you know he had flying reindeer?
Yes, I mean well, not necessarily back in the actual Saint Nicholas, but back in 1822, where Reverend Clement C. Moore, the author of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," this is where we get Santa as we know him today.
Mm-hmm.
The jolly flying reindeer, putting gifts in stockings. Because if you actually notice in that poem, he does not actually put anything underneath the tree. He puts it in the stockings because trees weren't necessarily popular at that point.
So his flying reindeer. I like to think that there are flying reindeer out there. You ever, like, when you were a kid, when you finally found out that Santa wasn't real?
Wait, Santa's not real?
Okay, newsflash, spoiler alert, I forgot to say that.
Santa is real.
So, when you finally found out that there wasn't
He's just not a true believer. He's not a true believer. It's okay.
When you found out there wasn't a fat man coming down your chimney and saw you while you were sleeping, because that's not creepy. You at some point though, you watched a Christmas movie and you looked at it like, I want to believe. You ever had that when you were younger? That moments where you just kind of really wanted to because you saw that, like, the joy of it and you kind of wanted to relive that. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact point in time when I truly, I knew my parents were giving me gifts.
Hmm.
I don't remember that exact period in time. Granted, I still also believe today that there is Santa.
Oh.
So, because I am a true believer. Unlike Santa.
I'm trying so hard not to just make fun of him, but we'll move forward. So, but that was just one. That's another memory of mine. Just like looking at stuff and be like, you know what? I would love to have this actual guy who just randomly gives presents because it's so cool. So we have one magical gift giver. Let's go on to another one. He's kind of the opposite, though. Let's talk about Krampus.
Krampus?
His gift is what you deserve.
Just like any other true judge?
Yeah. So you have the nice jolly Saint Nick who has all these happy-go-lucky magical powers and
which technically, if you aren't good even for Santa Claus, you get coal.
For the most part, though, that kind of went away, though. That kind of more went to he just doesn't give you a present. They kind of moved away from the coal.
Kind of. Mainly, probably just because of the cost of coal was getting so high. Not to mention, there are certain periods of time where coal was like a commodity. Like, if you had coal, you were considered,
affluent.
Affluent, yes.
Yeah.
So,
and on the flip side, so you have, like, how they had the angel and the demon on one on either side. So on one side, you got jolly old Saint Nick telling you, be a good boy. And on the other side, you have Krampus. So he was a half demon who, during the Christmas season, punished children who misbehaved. Over in Europe, I've seen, like, videos. They have, like, entire Krampus celebrations. And they, like, these, like, parades and stuff. It's nuts. it looks like a Halloween thing because you see these guys going around with big old horns and all this like crazy getup. Somebody I didn't see ones with like blood coming off. I'm like, geez, and this is a Christmas celebration. All right,
I wouldn't necessarily call it a Christmas celebration. I would say it's a holiday celebration. You keep on trying to bring this back to Christmas.
Yeah, okay. Holiday. Man, I'm going all politically correct here. Ay.
Not necessarily politically correct, just technically correct.
Nah, man, we're mincing hairs. But yeah, so you have that. It's I find that nuts. For that's another one that you have two different distinct ways of parenting right here.
Very true.
You have, okay, you know what, Billy? If you be good, you might get something good from Santa. Yo, Billy, if you are not good, Krampus going to get you. That is two different ways of parenting, and I'm very curious which one works better as a general. As I mean, for kids, a lot of times threats might go through a little bit better. I'm not saying that's the way to do it. Please don't misconstrue it. I'm just saying at that point in time in December, it might work a little better. You know, terrify them.
Might work. Long-term effects. Let's look back at your life.
I'm fine. As I twitch on off camera. No, but I think it's funny though. This terrified the children into listening. So you don't listen, old Krampus is coming for you. So now, we went through. We talked about Saturnalia, Crazy Drunk Time, Yule, Odin. So you got let's throw it all together in one. You got a drunken Odin, who is gonna talk to Santa. But if he talks to Krampus, then you're gonna get beat. We are weaving a crazy. Somebody's got to write a comic book about this. That'll be a sweet idea.
The multiverse of Santa Claus,
dude. Okay, I got like so many ideas just from that like statement. That's a great idea.
Just saying. Copyrighted. Trademarked.
We're gonna bleep this out of the entire episode. You're just gonna hear one long boo. We had an idea. Don't worry about what it was. All right, so now let's talk about actual Christmas. Are we okay with talking about Christmas now? Okay. Now we're okay with it? All right.
Now we can actually talk about Christmas traditions.
Okay.
We were talking about other things that happened, not necessarily before, but around this time.
Around the time, kind of the origin of it and the date. You know.
So Christmas, where do we get the name Christmas from?
Christ Mass of Christ. So it's talking about the service where you have the communion and the Eucharist and all that, which a lot of that goes back with the Catholic Church. So here's my 2 cents. I love the term Christmas. I love using it. I get annoyed with the general mass, with the term mass, because that always implies, just by hearing Mass, it implies the Catholic Church, and I have so many problems with the Catholic Church theologically that I hate that it's tied together. I wish it wasn't, but this is the world we live in. Because you have one of my issues, just in general, we're going to get into this at some other point during another podcast, but one of the things is I can't stand works-based salvation.
Well, it's a good thing that we're not talking about that tonight.
Oh, see,
just Christmas. You're welcome, folks. I saved you a 5-minute rant about
5 minutes. That's like 25, but sure, whatever.
I would have at least cut you off at least at 5 minutes. I'm not cut you off now.
So you got Christmas and after the solstice, you have the Christmas Day and the birthday of the unconquerable sun on the 25th. Is a lot of the, also with the Eucharist and all that, they have the that star pattern of, it's representing the sun. So the actual original Catholic Church took from that tradition of this, the sun, and kind of said, okay, now this means God. So that's, they intermingle. There's a lot of traditions within that Catholic origins that were 100% taken from the traditions of what we did talk about with Saturnalia and all those different things, and they kind of what the communities were doing. They said, okay, we're gonna modify a few things here. That happened. It's actually for a lot of different Christian traditions that we have. It's just something interesting.
So basically, what you're kind of saying here, and we'll get to this definitely later in the podcast, but overview wise, you're saying that we basically pointed things towards Christ.
We took what was there and said
Modified it.
When I say we, I mean them when they
Them,
started
yes,
it. Yes. So they took it and said, okay, we have a tradition. Why don't we focus it a different way? That there's two ways of viewing this. You can have that of what we just said about focusing a certain way, or you can say, because this happened in the Old Testament. God talked about, well, their hearts are too stubborn, so I allowed this. So you can also say, another way of looking at it would be, we know you're not going to give up these traditions, so we're just going to throw a new skin on it. I'm not saying one way or the other is correct. I am just saying that there's two different viewpoints of it.
This is very true. It's kind of like with the Gentiles and them being circumcised and not being circumcised. Like, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things whether they're circumcised or not circumcised? Why are we pushing our laws onto these people?
I think those are two different things.
But this is where it kind of comes from, I feel like. As far as like hey, let's allow them to have some of their, not necessarily sort of traditions, but to have some of what they are passionate about, because they were passionate about these celebrations.
That was more.
But let's point it towards Christ.
That was more, I think that was more faced towards the Jewish community at the time, because they were just like, they were so entrenched in their, thousands plus years of, Moses is, why is that word blanking me? His Mosaic law. There we go. The Mosaic law, that they weren't exactly ready mentally to jump over to the freedom of Christ, because you're going from the Mosaic law, which is works based, and also salvation is always in question because of what you are doing. You have to earn it. And whereas Christ came out and said, no, love me and I will work things out through you. Now, it's not you work and then maybe you can get to me. No, it's I'm right here. Just accept me. So those are the two very different ways of doing it. And then the Jewish tradition at the time said, okay, we're going to try to work in some of these different things. If you actually go back in some of the real old Jewish texts and stuff that are not biblical canon, they have like talks about golems and like all this crazy stuff. It's pretty interesting. I have no clue what of that is in any way true. I don't put any stock into it because it's not from the Bible, but I just find it very interesting because you have and you also have what was the one? It was like one of the sons of Noah. I think it was or grandson or something like that. That he was making all these different metals and whatnot, and he was a master metalsmith, and there's all this craziness. How do they figure that out so early? So there's a lot of weird old stories that are not part of actual Christian tradition today.
I won't even go into that. I was like, well, they had lots of time on their hands because back in those times they lived a lot longer.
Yeah, that's very true too.
So yeah, they would have a lot more time on their hands to really, master a craft.
Like making golems out of stone.
Sure, why not?
That were animated.
Sure.
We're getting into some Full Metal Alchemist territory here. Okay. I know you don't know that reference. Anyone know that's an anime reference? I'm sorry. I'm showing my nerd side.
So back to Christmas.
Yes. So back to Christmas. So
why do we celebrate it on December 25th? Why that day?
Let's read from right here. It says, after all the scripture says the shepherds were watching their flocks in the fields. For the most part, over there, that even at that time, we don't know. There's one that we make assumptions.
We don't know what.
We don't know what day Christ was born. We don't know when this all went down. More than likely, a lot of scholars agree. We don't have any exact dates, but it was more than likely that he actually died around Christmas time and Christ was born around Easter time. Not those exact dates, but somewhere in those time frames. So, as for the date of December 25th, it really just looks like we just said we're taking this day.
Kind of. I mean, there was some thought behind it. So you have Saturnalia, which was being celebrated,
Mm-hmm.
or at least the conquering of the sun, or not the celebration of the sun on December 25th. You have what was it? So you have there's a lot of people that believe that he was conceived on March 25th. I'm not saying this is accurate.
I don't want to know how they even the Bible gives zero information to
there
that.
are some other historical texts, and also when like she discovered there are some contextual clues that they have. They kind of like, hey, this is probably around March 25th. So they're thinking, okay, March 25th. Oh, that's December 25th. 9 months from there, which doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. But basically, there's a lot of things that kind of pointed at like other celebrations that were around that time.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, and then
It still sounds very much like they took they just put a new skin on it.
it's very much an educated guess as far as they're like, yeah, we're not celebrated on this day because we already have these other celebrations. Let's utilize this as a way to celebrate his birth, even though some other people believe that he was born sometime in the spring or autumn, because normally you wouldn't have shepherds out in the field
Yeah.
in December.
Well, the sheep's wool do keep them warm. I'm not sure how warm the shepherds would be, but so we have that day. What's important to us, though, as a Christian now? Guess what? The day means absolute squat. What is it? What is actually important is what are we doing with that day? Because the Bible says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. According to Jewish tradition, the Sabbath is on a Saturday. So are we all supposed to go more towards the 7-day Adventist? No, I don't think that's the point. Everything about that God does is always going to be about the heart. He's always worried about that. He does talk about our actions, but what the Bible clearly states that our heart is what shows our actions, or what our actions show what our heart is. There we go. I said that backwards.
Happens to the best of us.
I went a little dyslexic for a second there. So, our hearts are what's important. Do you think that God's saying if we celebrate the Sabbath, Sundays, if we do it on a Saturday, do you think that means that we're all going to hell now? Nope, it's all done. No, I don't think so. So the point being, take a day and dedicate it to God. That's the important part. It's not the day. It's not the specific day of the week, because God doesn't care about specific day of the week. He just cares about you and your heart. The same way how the original law for the Old Testament, when they had like the dietary restrictions, a lot of that was just cleanliness. Just because a lot of it was just not good. No, they knew, okay, well, there's different rules and traditions for, okay, some of it's cleanliness, other things was them trying to be separate from the world, but a decent portion was just cleanliness. So, do you think God was more worried about, just by that standalone fact, was he more worried about them following the tradition, or more worried about them as individuals? It sounds like he's worried about them as individuals.
Them, yeah, as a human being,
yeah, he didn't want
actual
them
being. His heart cared for them.
Yeah, he didn't want them to die. He didn't want them to get sick. So he's setting up a set of rules, not necessarily just to be arbitrary about it. It was more like, I want to keep you alive. I want to keep you living.
Correct. And then we go into the religion part of things where, okay, well, we're going to make a fence law so that way you don't even come close to what you're not supposed to be doing. That's an entirely different topic. I don't even know why I tried to even go down that topic. But besides that point, so we have Christmas. Now, most people on Christmas, what do? They exchange gifts.
Mm-hmm. So you have all the other traditions of gift givers. We talked about, with Santa, and you had, which a decent portion of that was Saint Nick, and then you have all the other ones. Even with the other celebrations, they all still gave gifts to each other. There was a lot of different stuff on that. For Saturnalia, they did a whole thing going back and forth, giving gifts to each other. Why now Christians now do it? Why do we do it? Who gave us the biggest gift in the world if we're celebrating Christmas as the birth of Christ? If we're celebrating his birth, what is the biggest gift? The fact that he was put into this world to save us, that he allowed himself to come down and put himself below the angels and say, because I love you and I miss you. Come back to me. That's awesome. So why we give gifts to remember that. Here's where a specific issue is. We have forgotten a lot of times. We get so focused on getting the perfect gift for somebody, doing this or that. I'm 100% guilty of it. That we do it in the manner that we love giving and doing that. We don't always have that in our minds. I'm speaking very generally right now. That we don't always have it in our minds of remembering Christ during this. We just know we remember that we're giving at this time. And for me, I'm a person, I personally love giving. And I love doing that for just seeing people's faces. I love seeing them happy, and I love helping them and doing whatever. That's who I am. But I'm not always thinking like, I want to do this in memory of you. When you do the communion, you're specifically talking about doing this in remembrance of me. Like you're thinking about Christ at that time. When we do that, we're not always thinking about that. But I think so. That's one thing I think we as Christians, we got to push a little bit more in the forefront of our minds instead of having it on the back burner. We're not doing anything necessarily that's wrong by giving to people, because giving's good. We just have to remember to keep our mindset to where God wants it to be, and that's focused on him.
Correct. And also, not to mention, like, you don't want to just give a gift to make yourself look better.
Oh, then that's pure pride at that point.
That's one part of it. But also showing your love to someone else, as Christ showed his love, or as the Father showed his love to someone else. Just because that's who you are, that's your love language.
Mm-hmm.
That's also that's coming from your heart, sharing love with someone else. Whether that be a handmade gift or a really thoughtful gift.
I draw great stick figures.
And some people may consider that great art.
Other people consider
that's not most people.
Most people consider kindling for a fire, but hey, to each his own. But let's talk about one other tradition that we like to do for Christmas gift giving. We love to reference the Magi.
This is very true, yeah. We do, I mean, 3 wise men. 3 wise men.
Nope.
I know.
No, I'm doing this for a reason. Continue.
I know you're doing it for a reason. Hence why I'm trying to continue. But you keep on me. Anyway.
Kind of held back a shh for you. www.shh.com.
Shush. Anyway, so you have the 3 wise men coming and giving gifts to Joseph and Mary and baby Jesus.
So yeah, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Why do we get the idea of 3 wise men and the whole story of there's Balthashazzar and all that? None of that is biblically accurate. You're going into other texts that are not biblical canon for those names of all those different magi. So that's something else with that. But the reason we think there's 3, the people say there's 3 magi, is because of the 3 gifts. So you assume one person giving one gift. You very well could have like 20, 30, and they're all just, they're a bunch of them from this sect, a bunch of them from this sect, and they all just pulled together, and this was the gifts that they gave. We have no idea. We just know that there was 3 specific gifts, one of gold, one of frankincense, and one of myrrh. Those were all foretelling of the future also, so that's also pretty cool. But here's one thing. I didn't talk with you about this ahead of time, Storm, because I wanted to see what you had to say about this. Think about this.
Great.
You have 3. Now, what does the Bible have to say about astrology? Nothing good. The Bible talks about not, for seeing things in the stars, talks about it as witchcraft, all this different stuff. Now, you have that, and you have 3 wise men who went into their text and said, there's a king because the star is in line this way. And then they followed the star. So, what's your thoughts on the fact that God used their texts that were completely against God to show who God is?
I mean, I feel like this once again goes back to our previous podcast where I've always said God always tries to point everything back to himself.
Mm-hmm. And then he even uses something that's like as crazy as that is, because it's kind of mind blowing, because like it's almost validating their thoughts that, oh, this is something real, when we know according to the Bible, there's nothing true in astrology. And by the way, out there for everyone who loves to do their, oh, I'm a Leo, I'm a Scorpio. Just letting you know, the universe itself shifts, so it's actually like 2 over. So whatever you think you are, you're probably 1 or 2 over. I don't know if it's left or right, in that nice little circle there. But just wanted to, tell you how bunk it is. Just pop that bubble. Well, my point being, now back to the topic, that they took this thing that is completely against God and found God through it. Now, we don't know when they went back to their land, what happened after that. But I just find that simply amazing that God is going to use something like that. Something that he even said, like, nope, I'm not for that. But you know what? You're going to do it. I'm going to show myself. And a lot of scholars do agree. There's no star in the night sky that can rightfully explain the movement that it has according to the Bible. I think it was Gabriel.
Interesting that you think that. There are some thoughts that it's a Saturn and Jupiter.
That it moved like that? That they would have had to have perfect conditions. And the fact that it stopped over Jerusalem and it stopped over the house.
Well, okay, so let's be actually real here. The wise men didn't actually show up when he was born. It was until a few years later.
Yeah, it was about I think he was 3 when it happened, if I'm remembering correctly. So even so, but the star showing up directly over the house, that really sounds very specific. And the fact that the night of Jesus' actual birth, because once again, they were not there, so all the nativity scenes are all wrong biblically. So that's another bubble to pop there. But so when they showed up at his house when he was 3, I mean, sorry, no, we will go back. When they at the actual night of his birth, sorry, I went 2 different topics. When he goes back on the night of his birth, there was bright light shining in the sky, and there was the angels. It makes so much sense that it was just a literal angel just going, here, follow me. They didn't know it was an angel, but it completely explains the movement patterns and how that worked. Because it sounds like God was really taking them by the hand at that point.
There is many theories on the Star of Bethlehem. You got planetary conjunction, which is what I was talking about earlier, with Saturn, Jupiter, and even one of the moons.
It stopped over Jerusalem and then the house.
They have Comet.
Cupid down there blitzing?
Yes, that one. Yep. Santa's reindeer.
I knew it was Rudolph.
Instead of Rudolph, it was Comet. He has a bright white nose they just don't ever talk about. No, that's not true.
That's Rudolph's younger brother. He's special.
There's talks about a supernova happening around that time.
I think that's a lot of explanations. Really trying to
a lot of different explanations.
To me, the easiest explanation is the craziest
astronomy,
one. Yeah, I think the easiest explanation is the craziest one. It's an angel.
I was going to say aliens, but okay.
No.
Aliens.
They do the same thing with on the 10 plagues. I watched a whole documentary on how they explained away every plague, like pretty much saying like it wasn't God. Like, well, this happened. This could cause this. This could cause that. I'm like, so you're telling me all those coincidences happened right at the exact same time? If you are that good with numbers, you should go to the casino, because that is some real good luck right there, trying to make all that fit. You're really trying to put a circle into a square hole.
So, Jehovah. I'm reading this right off of Wikipedia. Granted, it's Wikipedia, but for the most part, it's pretty true.
Always accurate. It's always accurate.
They're talking about some members of the Jehovah Witnesses believe the star was a vision or a sign created by Satan.
There's so many things that I could go into with that.
Which we won't go into, but just throwing out different. 7-Day Adventists. They're one of the people who wrote a book that said the stars were a distant company of shining angels.
I think it was just one. I think it was Gabriel because he is the messenger. Because we know, according to the Bible, he whenever there's a message given, it's him. So, to me, that's a very clear message of, hey, King, this way, follow me. So that to me makes the most sense. Once again, that's my opinion, and I'm just a nobody. But
Granted, yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of
details on that. That's
details,
just,
but these are a lot of speculations.
so I'm gonna let you get into this one. Let's talk about the Christmas tree, since you have your favorite tree traditions.
Yeah, so Christmas tree. Love the Christmas tree. Now, there's a lot of different thoughts behind where the Christmas tree originated. Many point to Germany traditions of bringing in the trees.
And then there's also some Christians go with the fact that the tree is more or less a triangle, and then they go with the Trinity, and then the reason they put the star on top of the star guiding to Bethlehem and all that. There's a lot of different things about it, and also that Christ was also crucified on a tree. So
there's also that. Not to mention their evergreen trees.
Yep.
It's kind of represents the eternal life.
And evergreen is also a modern term for something that's consistent. It's always going to be there. So evergreen. So yep.
There's lots of different things you can play off of with. Once again, it truly goes down to what your heart is. For me, the tree symbolizes a lot of memories because of all the different ornaments. Me and my wife usually like to buy a few ornaments every year to kind of describe what the year happened.
Dude, we have so many at this point. I have 3 totes.
I have 1 tote, but we keep on adding to it, so we'll continually get more and more.
You'll catch up. Don't worry.
I'm sure we will at the rate that we're buying them. Like this year, we and I don't know why my wife decided to do this, but she did. She bought a tiger.
I saw that online. I was very confused by it.
You want to know why?
Yes, please.
Tiger King.
Oh, my Lord.
That happened this year. Tiger King was introduced. I was like, did that really happen this year? Yeah, that did happen. I completely forgot about that.
This year has been 10 years in one, and it feels like it was a 5 years ago thing. But no, that was 2020 because 2020 lasts forever.
I heard a funny saying, just wait until 2020 turns 21 and starts drinking.
Oh, sweet crap. Oh. You're not giving us hope now. This is supposed to be a season of hope. What are you doing? But so we have all these traditions. So now here's where my question to you as the audience is. Now we know where a lot of these origins start. Not all of them are necessarily Christian in basis, but Christianity did adopt and change things, and redirected focus. What does it mean to you now? Was that just like a whatever? Does that change something of how you feel? Does that make you think of it a little differently? For me personally, I think that I understand that where it all started from. That to a certain extent that matters. But where's your heart? Because certain things, times you have bad origins, but it can turn into something good, like Joseph. He was too prideful, and he opened his mouth too much, got thrown in a well, and it took him going through slavery until he could finally just calmly love those who hurt him. And God had to let him go through all that just so he could have the humility to lead properly. That's crazy. So look at all where things started and where it is now. To me, I don't care about a lot of that other stuff. For me, I personally love the traditions just because they're fun. I love the decorations. I love the music. I love lights. I love all of that stuff. I love the season. I'm a big old Christmas nerd. So who cares about some of that? I want to know what has God to say. And if my heart is after God 24/7, this is another opportunity to love on him more and celebrate him more. We just have to be careful not to get wrapped up in all the other extra business that's can distract us. But then that's not any different from any other point of the year. It's just easier at certain points of the year because we're busy running around and going to 20 people's houses and not remembering it. Well, not this year because, quarantine. But you're doing all these different things. So it's not as easy to remember. But your heart is all God ever wants. He wants you, and once your heart's for him, he's going to work things out in your life, in your mind. Everything is going to revolve around him. So, your thoughts?
Kind of going just along with what you were saying there. He turns all things to good. That's what God does. Turns a bad situation into good.
And he takes that and just says, you know what? Even though, guess what? We as Christians, we can't give God any present of worth. Because what we talked about this before, what are we? We're dust. What can dust give infinite? Nothing. But what does God ask for? Just our love. And what is love? Himself. So he's asking just to give himself back. That's we can't give anything of worth. So you know what? Give the only thing that is worth, which is God himself. Give love. Remember that in this season as we love each other. Remember that in this season as you have your fights with your family that are inevitable. And like, look at the Griswolds. I am Clark Griswold. I try to have all this different stuff, and it never works out that way. And I have this rosy idea in the back of my mind of how it's all supposed to be. It is never that way. But that's okay, because God knows my heart. So know where your heart is, and in this season, especially reach out also to anyone if you feel alone, feel any need for anything, because you don't have. This time of year sucks if you're alone. You don't have to be. Reach out. There's always somebody out there, and if you feel there is no one, pray to say, Lord, send someone my way. I guarantee he will. It may not be what you expected, though, because he likes to go to the unexpected. All right, so I think we'll wrap that up here today, guys. And remember, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and see us on video. So, yeah. All right, and I believe, is it the first time we might be having our first guest that day? I'm not 100% on that, or is it the week after?
If I remember correctly, it's the 12th is the first day of video, and then that's the first also week that we're gonna have a guest on hand.
Yep. That looks correct. Yes. All right.
So listen to me. Don't listen to Sam.
Yes. So that's when we will have our first guest in studio, and he's somebody who I've talked about before, and he's going to give his testimony, and it's going to be a very interesting talk. So see you guys then. Take care of yourselves over this Christmas break. Merry Christmas. Remember to love God. Remember, He loves you.
Merry Christmas.